Take your stinking paws off me, you damn dirty ape. Planet of the Apes didn't just flip the world upside down. It made audiences question everything they thought they knew about humanity. But behind those rubber masks and that jaw-dropping beach reveal, chaos ruled the set. The makeup took so long actors nearly quit. The studio almost killed it before filming started. And one scene, they used real fire so close to the cast that insurance refused to cover it. These are 20 weird facts about Planet of the Apes. And the bonus? It involves a drinking contest, a deleted scene, and Charlton Heston refusing to wear pants. Strap in. This gets strange fast. Number 1. Before Planet of the Apes was a script, it was a French novel nobody in Hollywood wanted to touch. Pierre Boulle wrote it in 1963, a dark satire about humans landing on a planet run by intelligent apes. Literary critics loved it. Studio executives laughed it off. Too weird, too expensive, too risky for American audiences who wanted cowboys and war heroes, not philosophical sci-fi with monkeys in charge. But producer Arthur Jacobs saw something else. He bought the rights anyway, spent years shopping it around, getting door after door slammed in his face. Every studio said the same thing. The makeup would be impossible, the budget would balloon, audiences would never buy it. But Jacobs didn't quit. He kept pushing, kept refining, kept believing that somewhere, someone would take the gamble. And eventually, after years of rejection and creative pivots, he found his opening at 20th Century Fox. It wasn't enthusiasm that got the green light, it was desperation. The studio needed something different, something bold, something that might actually stand out in a crowded market. So they took the bet, handed Jacobs a modest budget, and told him not to embarrass them. What started as an unfilmable French novel became one of the most iconic sci-fi films ever made, and it almost never happened. Number 2. The ending, that iconic shot of the Statue of Liberty buried in sand, wasn't in the original novel. Pierre Boulle's book ended differently, with a twist involving the protagonist returning to Earth only to find apes had taken over there too. But screenwriter Rod Serling, fresh off creating The Twilight Zone, saw a better way to gut-punch the audience. He wanted something visual, something American, something that would make people gasp out loud in the theater. So he rewrote the finale completely. Instead of a philosophical reveal, he gave them a monument, a symbol, proof that Taylor had been on Earth the whole time, that humanity destroyed itself, and that everything he fought for was already lost. The studio loved it but worried it would leak, so they kept the ending secret from almost everyone. Even some crew members didn't know until they shot it. The Statue of Liberty prop was built in segments, partially buried in the sand at a remote California beach, and filmed under tight security. When test audiences saw it, the reaction was instant. Silence, then gasps, then stunned, uncomfortable murmuring as the credits rolled. It became one of the most famous twist endings in cinema history, and it was all because Rod Serling understood one thing. The best horror isn't what you see coming, it's what's been there all along. Number 3. Charlton Heston didn't want the role. At first, when Arthur Jacobs approached him with the script, Heston thought it sounded ridiculous. A movie where apes talk and humans are mute slaves? He told Jacobs it was career suicide, that audiences would laugh him off the screen. But Jacobs was relentless. He sent Heston concept art, makeup tests, detailed production notes. He explained the allegory, the deeper themes about racism, nuclear war, and the collapse of civilization. Heston started to see it differently. This wasn't just a B-movie with guys in monkey suits. It was satire with teeth. So he agreed, but only on one condition. He wanted script approval and a say in how his character was portrayed. The studio resisted, but Jacobs knew without Heston, the film would lose its anchor, so they gave in. Heston signed on, brought his intensity, his presence, and his willingness to spend hours in the desert heat, barely clothed. He later admitted Planet of the Apes was one of the smartest risks he ever took. Not because it was easy, but because it asked something of him beyond just being a hero. It asked him to witness the fall of everything he believed in, and he delivered that devastation perfectly. Number 4. The ape makeup was a nightmare, literally. When the studio first approached makeup artist John Chambers, he told them it couldn't be done. Not realistically, not on a feature film budget, not without making the actors look like carnival mascots. But the studio didn't have another option. So Chambers went to work, spending months testing prosthetics, experimenting with foam latex. The prosthetics were hot, tight and suffocating. Some actors said they felt claustrophobic, trapped inside their own faces. Eating was nearly impossible. Drinking required straws. And if the makeup cracked or peeled during a take, everything had to stop for repairs. But the result was revolutionary. The apes didn't look like costumes. They looked alive. Chambers didn't just create masks, he created characters. The Academy agreed. In 1969, they gave him an honorary Oscar for his groundbreaking work, recognizing that what he achieved on Planet of the Apes had changed movie makeup forever. Number 5. The apes self-segregated during lunch. Not because anyone told them to, but because it just happened naturally. Actors playing gorillas sat together. Chimpanzees formed their own group. Orangutans kept to themselves. It was eerie, uncomfortable, and completely unplanned. The cast later said that once they were in full makeup and costume, something shifted. They stopped seeing each other as actors. They started identifying with their species. The makeup was so immersive, so transformative, that it changed how they interacted. Gorillas, the soldiers and enforcers, became more physical, more dominant in group settings. Chimpanzees, the intellectuals and scientists, stayed cerebral, discussing the script and debating scenes. Orangutans, the ruling class, carried themselves with quiet authority. It wasn't method acting. It was something stranger. The costumes imposed a social structure that mirrored the film's world. Director Franklin Schaffner noticed but didn't intervene. He saw it as an asset, a way to deepen the illusion even off camera. If the actors believed in the hierarchy, the audience would too. But it also revealed something unsettling about human nature. How quickly we fall into roles, how easily appearance dictates behavior, and how thin the line is between performance and reality. Planet of the Apes wasn't just a movie about evolution. It was a live experiment in tribalism, playing out every day at lunch. Number 6. Charlton Heston spent most of the shoot nearly naked, and he hated every second of it. His character, Taylor, crash lands on the planet in torn rags, barely covering anything. The wardrobe department tried multiple designs, but director Franklin Schaffner insisted on minimal clothing to emphasize Taylor's vulnerability. So Heston spent weeks filming in the California desert wearing what essentially amounted to a loincloth. The heat was unbearable. The rough terrain tore up his skin. And the constant exposure to sun, sand, and sharp rocks left him battered and sunburned. Heston later joked that he spent more time in makeup repairing his body than the apes did on their faces. But worse than the physical discomfort was the humiliation. Here was one of Hollywood's biggest stars, known for playing larger-than-life heroes, reduced to stumbling around half-naked and filthy. There were moments when he questioned the entire project, wondering if audiences would take him seriously or just laugh at the absurdity. But Schaffner knew what he was doing. That vulnerability, that raw exposure, made Taylor's journey visceral. You felt his desperation, his exhaustion, his slow realization that he'd lost everything. Heston's discomfort wasn't just method, it was the role itself, stripping away the hero and leaving only a man who no longer had control over his fate. Number 7. The studio almost killed the film before it started because of one test screening. Not a screening of the movie, a screening of makeup tests. In 1966, before full production was approved, Fox executives demanded proof that audiences would accept talking apes. So John Chambers created early versions of the prosthetics, and a test scene was filmed. Charlton Heston, in partial costume, sat across from actor Edward G. Robinson, fully made up as an orangutan. They performed a dialogue scene, testing whether the makeup would hold up on camera and whether audiences could suspend disbelief. The screening was held for a small group of Fox executives. Silence. When the lights came up, nobody spoke. Then one executive said what others were clearly thinking. "This looks ridiculous." The apes looked cartoonish. The movements felt stiff. The dialogue didn't land. Arthur Jacobs watched his dream collapse in real time. But he didn't give up. He convinced the studio to give Chambers more time, more budget, more freedom to refine the designs. Chambers worked around the clock, redesigning everything from scratch. Months later, they held another test. This time, the reaction was different. The apes looked real, the performances translated, and Fox finally believed it could work. That second test saved Planet of the Apes. Without it, the project would have been shelved, buried, forgotten. Number 8. Linda Harrison, who played Nova, got the role under circumstances that would never happen today. She wasn't cast through traditional auditions, she didn't have extensive acting credits. She was dating Richard Zanuck, the head of 20th Century Fox and the man who greenlit Planet of the Apes. When the role of Nova came up, a beautiful, mute human woman who becomes Taylor's companion, Harrison was offered the part. Some crew members whispered about nepotism. Others said it was inappropriate. But Jacobs and Schaffner didn't object because, frankly, the role didn't require much dialogue and Harrison had the look they wanted. Blonde, striking, primal. She spent most of her screen time running, reacting, and looking terrified, which she did convincingly. But behind the scenes, the situation created tension. Cast members wondered if she received special treatment. Harrison later admitted she felt the pressure, knowing that people questioned whether she deserved to be there. But she showed up, did the work, and became one of the most iconic images of the film, the wild human woman in scraps of animal hide, embodying humanity's fall from grace. Years later, Harrison would marry Zanuck, and the controversy faded into Hollywood history. But on that set, in those months of production, everyone knew exactly how she got there. Number 9. The famous line, "Take your stinking paws off me, you damn dirty ape," was almost cut from the script. Studio executives thought it was too aggressive, too jarring for a PG-rated family film. They wanted something softer, less confrontational. But Charlton Heston fought back. He understood that line was the turning point, the moment Taylor reclaims his voice and his humanity after being silenced and degraded. It had to hit hard. It had to feel like a release of all the rage and frustration he'd been bottling up. Heston rehearsed it dozens of times, adjusting the emphasis, finding the perfect balance between anger and desperation. When they finally shot it, he delivered it with such raw intensity that the ape actors physically recoiled. The take was perfect. One shot, one moment, and it became the most quoted line of the entire film. The studio stopped complaining once they saw audience reactions. People in test screenings erupted into applause. It wasn't just a line of dialogue, it was a battle cry, and it proved something crucial. Sometimes the most memorable moments in film are the ones that make executives uncomfortable, because those are the moments that feel real, dangerous, alive. Number 10. The Forbidden Zone, that desolate radioactive wasteland where Taylor discovers the truth, wasn't created with special effects or studio sets. It was real. The production filmed in the California desert, Page, Arizona, and the surrounding areas, using natural rock formations and barren landscapes that looked alien without any enhancement. No CGI, no Métis paintings, just raw geography that happened to look like the end of the world. But filming there was brutal. Temperatures soared above 110 degrees. The crew had limited water, equipment overheated constantly, and the actors, especially Heston and the 8 performers in heavy prosthetics, suffered through take after take in suffocating heat. Several cast members required medical attention for dehydration and heat exhaustion. Insurance underwriters visited the set, warned about safety violations, and threatened to pull coverage if conditions didn't improve. But director Franklin Schaffner refused to relocate to a studio. He wanted the environment to look harsh, unforgiving, real, and it shows in every frame. The exhaustion on the actors' faces isn't performance, it's genuine. The sweat, the dust, the struggle, all authentic. That final reveal, when Heston falls to his knees in front of the Statue of Liberty, wasn't just acting, it was collapse. The desert broke them down physically and emotionally, and that raw devastation became the soul of the film's ending. Number 11. Roddy McDowall became method before method was cool. Playing Cornelius, the sympathetic chimpanzee scientist, McDowall didn't just wear the makeup, he lived in it. Between takes, he stayed in character, spoke in Cornelius's voice, moved with the hunched, careful gait of a chimp. Other actors thought he was taking it too far, but McDowall understood something crucial. The makeup was so heavy, so restrictive, that breaking character meant breaking the illusion for himself. If he stepped out mentally, even for a moment, the physical discomfort became unbearable. So he stayed inside Cornelius's head, used the character as armor against the heat, the pain, the exhaustion. Director Franklin Schaffner noticed and started giving him more freedom to improvise, to add small gestures and reactions that weren't in the script. McDowell's dedication paid off. Cornelius became the heart of the film, the bridge between species, the ape who saw humans as equals. Critics singled out his performance as the standout, and audiences fell in love with him. Years later, McDowell would return for multiple sequels, becoming the franchise's most consistent presence. But it all started with that first film, where he refused to take off the mask, even when the cameras stopped rolling. Number 12. Maurice Evans, who played the villainous Dr. Zaius, nearly quit during the first week. The makeup was suffocating, the heat unbearable, and Evans, a classically trained Shakespearean actor, felt ridiculous performing serious dramatic scenes while dressed as an orangutan. He called his agent, threatened to walk, said he'd made a terrible mistake. But Arthur Jacobs flew to the set personally, sat Evans down, and explained the bigger picture. This wasn't a silly monster movie. It was allegory. Zaius represented authority, dogma, the refusal to accept inconvenient truths. He was every government that suppressed science, every institution that chose comfort over reality. Evans listened, thought about it, then stayed. And once he reframed the role in his mind, everything changed. He stopped fighting the makeup and started using it, letting the prosthetics add weight to his authority. His Zaius became cold, calculating, terrifying in his certainty. The performance elevated the entire film, giving it a legitimate villain who believed he was the hero. Evans later said Planet of the Apes taught him that great acting isn't about the costume. It's about the conviction behind it.
An experimental surgery on the speech centers, on the brain.
Number 13. The original script had Taylor speaking within the first 10 minutes. But Charlton Heston had a better idea. He went to director Franklin Schaffner and producer Arthur Jacobs with a proposal. Keep Taylor silent for as long as possible, make the audience wait, build the tension until his voice becomes a weapon. Schaffner loved it, so they restructured the entire first act, stretching Taylor's muteness to nearly 40 minutes. For almost half the film, Heston communicates only through expressions, grunts, and desperate attempts to write in the dirt. The apes treat him like an animal because he can't prove otherwise. And when he finally speaks, when that first word erupts from his throat, it detonates like a bomb. The shift is visceral, shocking, earned. Test audiences reportedly gasped when it happened, not because they'd forgotten he could talk, but because the film made them forget he was Charlton Heston. That's the power of restraint. That's what silence can do when broken at exactly the right moment. And it was Heston's idea, proving he understood storytelling as much as any director. Number 14. Kim Hunter, who played Dr. Zira, performed most of her role while pregnant. The studio didn't know at first. Hunter kept it quiet, afraid she'd lose the part if they found out. But as filming progressed and her pregnancy became impossible to hide, wardrobe had to get creative. They added layers to her costume, adjusted camera angles, kept her seated in scenes that originally had her standing. The makeup helped too, the prosthetics and loose chimpanzee clothing concealing what tight human wardrobe never could. Hunter powered through the 4-hour makeup sessions, the long shooting days, the physical demands of the role, all while dealing with morning sickness and fatigue. She never complained, never asked for special treatment, just showed up and delivered one of the film's most nuanced performances. Zira was smart, compassionate, rebellious, everything the film needed to show that not all apes were enemies. Hunter brought warmth to a character that could have been just another scientist, and she did it while literally creating life off screen. When the studio finally found out, they were furious at first, then impressed. She'd given them exactly what they needed without letting her personal situation compromise the production. Number 15. The horse falls weren't stunts, they were accidents waiting to happen, and one nearly killed the production. During the hunt sequence, where apes on horseback chased down humans, the stunt coordinators choreographed specific falls and tumbles. But filming in rough desert terrain with horses wearing unusual tack and riders in heavy ape makeup created a dangerous combination. Horses spooked easily, the prosthetics limited the stunt rider's peripheral vision, and the uneven ground made every gallop a gamble. During one take, a horse hit a hidden dip at full speed and went down hard, throwing its rider. The stuntman broke his collarbone. The horse had to be euthanized. Production shut down for 2 days while the studio investigated. Insurance companies threatened to pull coverage, and animal rights concerns nearly derailed everything. Franklin Schaffner tightened safety protocols, brought in additional horse handlers, and reduced the intensity of the remaining chase scenes. But the near disaster left everyone shaken, a reminder that even controlled chaos can spiral. The hunt sequence made it into the final film, visceral and terrifying, but behind every frame was the knowledge of what it cost. Number 16. Jerry Goldsmith's iconic score almost didn't exist. The studio wanted something traditional, orchestral, safe, strings and brass that sounded like every other sci-fi epic. But Goldsmith heard something different. He wanted dissonance, atonality, sounds that felt alien and wrong. He used unconventional instruments, mixing horns with exotic percussion, adding electronic elements that hadn't been widely used in film scores. When he presented early compositions to the studio, executives hated it. Too weird, too experimental, too risky. They wanted him to start over with something more conventional. But director Franklin Schaffner stood firm. He understood that Goldsmith's score wasn't just music, it was world building. It had to sound like a planet where everything humanity knew had been inverted. So he fought for Goldsmith's vision, and the studio reluctantly approved. The result was groundbreaking. Goldsmith's score became as iconic as the visuals, nominated for an Academy Award, and studied in film schools for decades. It proved that sometimes the strangest choices are the most memorable, that music doesn't have to be pretty to be powerful, and that trusting artists to follow their instincts can create something no committee would ever approve. Number 17. The famous scene where Taylor is hosed down and displayed in a cage wasn't supposed to be that intense. The script called for him to be subdued, restrained, humiliated. But when they started filming, something shifted. The water pressure was cranked higher than planned, the apes surrounding the cage became more aggressive, and Charlton Heston, feeding off the energy, started fighting back harder than rehearsed. What was supposed to be a quick sequence turned into nearly 20 minutes of raw, physical struggle. Heston was genuinely fighting, genuinely exhausted, genuinely furious. The ape actors responded in kind, grabbing him roughly, shoving him down. Franklin Schaffner kept the cameras rolling, sensing something authentic unfolding. When they finally called cut, Heston was bruised, soaked, gasping for air. But the footage was electric. That scene became one of the film's most powerful moments, a visceral depiction of dehumanization that resonated far beyond science fiction. It wasn't comfortable to watch. It wasn't meant to be, because Planet of the Apes wasn't about escapism. It was about holding up a mirror and forcing audiences to look at what humanity does to those it considers lesser. And in that cage, covered in filth and stripped of dignity, Taylor represented every marginalized person ever treated as less than human. Number 18. The film sparked protests before it even premiered. Religious groups objected to the evolutionary themes, claiming the movie promoted atheism and undermined biblical creation stories. Conservative organizations called for boycotts, arguing that showing apes as intelligent beings was blasphemous. Some theaters in the South refused to book it. Others faced picket lines on opening night. But the controversy only fueled interest. Young audiences, especially college students, saw it as countercultural, a movie willing to challenge authority and question comfortable narratives. Lines wrapped around city blocks. The box office exploded beyond all projections. What started as protest became free publicity, and the deeper irony wasn't lost on the filmmakers. A movie about a society that suppresses uncomfortable truths was being protested by people trying to suppress uncomfortable truths. Rod Serling's script had deliberately woven in themes of censorship, dogma, and institutional blindness. Dr. Zaius burning evidence of human intelligence mirrored book burnings, scientific suppression, any moment in history when power chose ignorance over knowledge. The real world was proving the film's point before audiences even saw it. Planet of the Apes didn't just predict dystopia, it revealed how close we already were. Number 19. Charlton Heston did his own stunts, and it nearly killed him. During the climactic sequence in the Forbidden Zone, Taylor climbs rocky outcroppings, scrambles across unstable terrain, and staggers through the desert. Heston insisted on doing it himself, no doubles, no safety harnesses for most shots. At one point, he miscalculated a jump, slipped on loose rocks, and tumbled 15 feet down a ravine. The crew rushed in, certain he was seriously injured. Heston stood up, dusted himself off, and demanded they reset for another take. He had a gash on his leg and was clearly limping, but he refused medical attention until the scene was complete. Franklin Schaffner tried to shut down production, but Heston wouldn't hear it. He understood that the ending required exhaustion, pain, defeat, and the only way to sell that authentically was to actually feel it. When Taylor finally collapses in front of the Statue of Liberty, Heston wasn't acting. He was surrendering to everything the desert and the chute had put him through. That physical toll, that genuine breakdown, gave the film's final moments a raw power no amount of technical wizardry could manufacture. Sometimes great cinema requires sacrifice, and Heston bled for it. Number 20. The ending was filmed in one day, and they almost lost it to the tide. The production only had the beach location for a limited window. Union rules, permits, and insurance restrictions meant they had one shot to get the Statue of Liberty reveal right. No second chances, no backup plan, one day or nothing. The art department had spent weeks constructing the partial statue prop, hauling pieces across the sand, burying it at precise angles, positioning every detail to look like it had been there for centuries. But nature wasn't cooperating. The tide was coming in faster than expected, hours ahead of schedule. Water started creeping toward the set, dark lines spreading across the sand, threatening to flood the entire area before they finished shooting. Schaffner faced an impossible choice: rush through the takes and risk losing the emotional devastation the scene demanded, or take their time, honor the moment, and gamble that the ocean wouldn't swallow everything first. He chose emotion. They shot slowly, methodically, letting Heston find the devastation in every angle, every stumble, every broken realization. The crew watched nervously as waves inched closer with each setup. Some were already preparing to evacuate equipment, coiling cables, securing cameras. But Schaffner kept going, every angle, every reaction shot. Taylor's collapse into the sand, the slow reveal of Lady Liberty's corroded face, the final zoom out showing the buried torch jutting from the beach like a tombstone. When they finally wrapped, the tide was already covering their footprints, erasing evidence they'd ever been there. 30 minutes later, the entire set would have been underwater. Planet of the Apes ended with humanity's greatest symbol drowned by the ocean, and they filmed it with actual water threatening to wash it all away. The perfect metaphor, the perfect risk, the perfect ending. Bonus fact. After production wrapped, Charlton Heston threw a party and made everyone a strange request: come as your character. But he had one rule: no one was allowed to explain anything to outsiders. So the cast showed up, some in partial ape makeup, some in tattered human costumes, and absolutely terrified Heston's neighbors. Picture it: Beverly Hills, 1967, and Cornelius is drinking martinis next to Nova in animal hides next to Zayas in full orangutan prosthetics. People driving by stopped, stared, called the police thinking it was some kind of bizarre cult gathering. Heston loved every second of the chaos, serving drinks in his loincloth, refusing to explain. The party became legendary in Hollywood circles, a celebration of a film that never played it safe, never asked permission, and never apologized for being strange. Because Planet of the Apes wasn't just a movie, it was a statement, a warning, a mirror held up to a civilization hurtling toward its own destruction. And decades later, that ending still hits. Taylor screaming at the ruins, the truth buried in sand. Humanity's legacy reduced to a broken monument. If you loved diving into the madness behind the masterpiece, hit like, subscribe, and drop a comment about which fact shocked you most. Thanks for watching. Now get your stinking paws off that remote and go watch it again. Remote.